Well, good morning, Andrews University. Welcome to a new academic semester. I decided to take a change from the winter over Christmas and went down to Mexico. And I was traveling with a friend of mine who is a top birder, actually, top world birder. And so I heard a lot of bird stories. And I want to start by telling you one. It's about a little bird. Its name is the New Zealand storm petrel. And 1890s was about the last time there seemed to be evidence of this bird existing. And then over 100 years later, 2003, some bird watchers were looking out and they saw a bird that they didn't quite recognize. They took some pictures of it, and when they looked it up, they were surprised to find out that this might actually be the bird that seemed to have disappeared since 1890. And so a lot of other birders went in the area to try and see if they could find the bird. Finally, it was confirmed in 2005 when the New Zealand storm petrel just flew onto a boat. A fisherman's boat, right into the cabin, almost like he wanted to be rediscovered. And it happened that the skipper, here it is, here is the New Zealand storm petrel. And the guy who saw it when he came in, he was the skipper of the boat. He was also a conservationist. So immediately he too recognized this was a rare bird. This actually is a picture of the man who found it. It flew onto his boat, and you can see how small the bird is. He took it into his hands, they took some pictures of it, and later confirmed that yes, the bird they thought that was extinct actually wasn't extinct. Well, over the next few years, there was a huge amount of excitement as to where this bird had been all these years and how it could suddenly come back to life again almost without knowledge. And so for a number of years, they were tracking, trying to find out where it was coming from. And they knew that the bird actually lived in burrows. And I got a picture of the kind of burrow here that it would normally be found in. And they discovered that on Little Barrier Island off New Zealand, this bird was beginning to be nurtured and expand and breed in the burrows on the island. So, why now? Why, after 100+ years of not being there, did this bird suddenly emerge? Well, of course, something like this you never know for sure. But the theory is something like this, that Little Barrier Island, along with a few other islands in the Pacific, became uninhabited. And the New Zealand government decided to go into some of these islands and rid them of some of the island's pests, feral cats, and Pacific rats. And 1980, they went in to eradicate the cats, and in 2004, the rats. What happened? The predators were off the island. The burrows were free and safe. And the birds, wherever they had been surviving in maybe ones and twos before, found the burrows, started breeding again, and managed to thrive. So now the species is considered still nationally endangered. Before it was considered what they call, in birding language, data deficient. In other words, doesn't seem to exist any longer. I want you to keep that in mind. I'm going to come back to that story in a moment. I don't know how 2014 was for you. I hope it was great. But I suspect there were those moments that you're happy to leave behind you. Some moments of challenge, some moments when you did something and you thought afterwards, that was just stupid. Some relationships maybe that went sour, mistakes that were made, things that were happened, and you just were glad they were gone and behind you. But now we're in a new year. For some of you, as we've seen, this is new university for you. For some of you, maybe over the break things changed, Olivia. Some of us are now married. Maybe you forged other new friendships, relationships. Maybe you have a new roommate. Certainly you all have new courses. Certainly the new year is bringing with it for you a huge number of new opportunities. You know, I heard the story of the storm petrel as we were driving through Mexico on New Year's Eve. And as I heard the story, I thought, you know, this is a wonderful example of newness, rebirth, regeneration, new life, a clearing out of the destructive elements and finding new hope. For the bird, it became not just survival, but thriving. Even though all the news things say, while the islands remain clear of predators. I'm going to have 3 challenges for you this morning, and this kind of leads into my first one. You have a new year, new possibilities ahead of you. And I would challenge you, along with me, to embrace those new possibilities, the opportunities to thrive, to fly, as we saw with that storm petrel, with joy and freedom, to become excited with learning, with faith, with all the new opportunities that you're going to have this year. But that might mean looking at destructive elements, things that perhaps stopped you succeeding and doing what you wanted to in the last year. Elements that need to perhaps be eradicated. Now, you know better than me what those are. Maybe for some of you, it's addictions. Maybe it is negative relationships. Maybe it's misaligned priorities. You know what they are. What were those barriers that stopped 2004 being the year you wanted it to be? What were those things? Can you be honest about them? Can you own them? And can you say going into this year, okay, enough. Those are not going to get into my way this year. Andrews University is not perfect, and I'll repeat that. Andrews University is not perfect. But I do believe that it can offer those safe burrows for students who are here, places for you to get support, be nurtured. I really hope that you will take advantage this year of everything that this university can offer you. For some of you, this will be the last semester of your university experience. So for you in particular, I say maximize those opportunities. Advisors, professors, student life, student support, chaplaincy, friends. It's not going to be like this again. Take advantage of those burrows. My second challenge to you today relates to the scripture reading we read. You know, there's 2 passages that I like reading in the new year. One is John chapter 1, that talks about it in the beginning is the word. And this is the second one, the story of Nicodemus. Here's a man who had so much, but yet he knew he was lacking something too. So first of all, Nicodemus had the courage to recognize he needed something more, so he went to Jesus, albeit in the night, because he wasn't quite sure he wanted everyone to see him making this contact and admitting that he knew he had a problem. And he came to Jesus and says, "What do I do?" And so Jesus faced him with what seemed ridiculous, impossible. A great man, be born again, be like a child, and so on. We know the story. In other words, be renewed. Be born again. Be different. Be born in the Spirit. But the bit that I really want to focus on, in addition to that, is the last little bit that Olivia read when it starts talking about the Spirit being like the wind. It goes where you least expect it to go. It takes you unexpected places. Embrace that Spirit is what Jesus is telling Nicodemus. It's going to take you out of the person you are to be somebody you don't expect you can be. Even though you're great up here, this will make you even greater. I like the wind. I'm sorry to say this, I like the snow. Yesterday morning, I'd come back from Mexico, I should say, really, really early in the morning on Monday. I have not had a chance to go to the shops yet. I had no food in my house. So I decided to go to Panera Bread, which is right across the road from me. And it was still dark. And I drove into the car park, and the snow was blowing in 5 different directions. And there were no other cars in the car lot, and my Subaru is a nice 4-wheel drive. So I hate to admit it, I acted like a 16-year-old, and I went like this around the car park. And I enjoyed the drive, I enjoyed the wind, I enjoyed the snow, I enjoyed the unpredictability of the moment. I really think that is what Jesus is talking about when he says to Nicodemus about what it means to embrace, to be born again and be embraced of the Spirit. It is something that is exciting. It takes you places you never imagine that you will go, and you can go. And that is my second challenge to you. I hope this year that you will take the opportunity, Andrea students, to be born again or reborn in the Spirit. I want this year to be for you a year of the excitement of a faith that will lead you into places that you had never imagined you could possibly go. All right, we have here many nationalities. You all have traditions related to the new year, depending on where you come from. Clocks counting down, singing Auld Lang Syne, dropping of the ball in New York City, eating 12 grapes if you come from Spain. You can multiply the number of traditions you have. I learned a new one again this Christmas while we were driving along New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve, as you can see, was a great discovery day for me. And every little town we went through in Mexico, in the Yucatan Peninsula, there was this little old stuffed man sitting there in the middle of the village. And we thought, what on earth is that? Well, we got to the place we were staying that night, and they were going to have a celebration, and then we discovered what it was all about. I went online later, discovered more that this is a tradition in quite a few South American countries, Ecuador being one of the places as well. So the idea is that each area, each town, each little village, they create this guy, this stuffed figure, usually of a man, and everyone in the village comes along and they put inside there something that reminds them of something they want to get rid of from the previous year. So it's stuffed of all of these negatives, if you like, from the year before. And then when it gets to New Year, they set it alight and they burn it all up. There's one going. And that is one of the celebrations that is part of their New Year celebration, burning up the old in order to move forward with the new. So my third challenge. I hope that right now, at the beginning of this new year, if you haven't done it already, you will forgive and forget. Let go. Forgive yourself, your family, your roommates, your teachers, the university, the church. Don't hang on to anything that stops you embracing the possibilities of this new year. Let it go. So going backwards now. Number 1, forgive and forget. Leave behind what needs to be left in history. Burn it all up. Number 2, Take this year to be born, reborn in your relationship with your Savior. Enjoy experiencing the excitement of following the Spirit. And number 3, embrace the opportunities newness brings to every aspect of your life. Take advantage of Andrews to eradicate the feral cats, the Pacific rats that stop your success, personally, academically, spiritually. And finally, to the graduating seniors. Yes, I hope you do all this too, but also in the knowledge that this is the last stretch, the time to deepen those lasting relationships, to shore up your professional and academic skills, and to be certain that when you leave Andrews, you leave not with just the capacity to take, but you have built up the resources to give, the capacity to not just experience the mission of this university, but to live that mission of seeking knowledge, affirming faith, and changing the world. So welcome back, Andrews University. Here's to a successful, spirit-filled, and life-changing 2015.